Welcome once again to How to Relate to Anyone. Here is Dr. Orv Owens.
Well, hello again, and we're going to cover 10 things that any corporation, I don't care what size, whether it's a mom and pop shop or a Fortune 500 company, these 10 things are what you look for in the interviewing process to hire square pegs for square holes. We have a course called that, and it's really effective interviewing, how to hire the right person for the right position. And it's in book form now and also online, so check it out. We're going to look at the top 10, and this is just a segment out of that course, so you're not going to get the whole package, but you're going to get the 10 things that you should have in mind that you're looking for in interviewing somebody for any position. Any position. And of course, job description is vitally important and so on, but this is some things that are soft tissue. I guess it's soft tissue. It's kind of software that is important in getting people who are going to fit and hit the road running. And so we're going to look at number one, and that's the inward relationship. We've covered it in earlier lessons, but I want to just touch on it because it's vitally important. Probably the most important thing in hiring the right person for the right position is finding somebody who has the self-image, self-esteem, and self-acceptance to fit the job description. And so that's what you're looking for, number one. Now, and it's going to show up all through a whole interview. It's going to show up even on their job description, how they fill that out. It's going to show up on their introduction letter. Everything about them will tell you something about their inward relationship, something about their self-image, their self-esteem, and self-acceptance. It's got to be high. And especially if it's a leadership role that they're interviewing for, you want to make sure these three factors are strong in that person you hire for the position. Number two on my list is a desire to succeed. Doesn't everybody have a desire to succeed? I hear somebody saying somewhere. No. Some people have a desire just to get by. Some have a desire just to get paid. Some have a desire to do as little work as they can get away with. In fact, we're talking about 80% of the population fit into that category. So if you get that 20% that have a desire to succeed, they're excited about the task they're going to be doing. They're excited about possibilities of promotions and moving with the company and being with the company when they retire. That's what we want. We want that high intensity, a desire to succeed, got to make it happen type attitude. And then number three is teachability or coachability. Teachability is the ability to learn. Can they do the due diligence needed to be proficient in the job description? And the coachability is, can they take instructions? Can they hear what you're saying when you give directives and plug it in? Can they be the person you need them to be at that time? They must be open-minded, closed-minded. If they come to you with a closed mind, I know what to do, I have all this experience, you might have a problem because they are not open-minded. Because your company and this position you're hiring for is totally unique. It's not like any other company or any other position. And so to come in with an attitude of, I already know everything. Boy, I had this happen in a interview situation. I was working with a company and they brought me in to do interviews with their staff and hiring a position. And this person is a leader, has to be a leader, has to be head of the office staff, actually. And so we interviewed 10 people, and the owner of the company chose one of those 10 people. And I told him, I don't think you're going to be happy with that person. The way they interviewed, they're just not going to fit with your corporate culture. It's not going to happen. He said, well, I'm impressed. He said, I really like her. I think she has what I'm looking for. I said, well, I'm here just to give you advice. You know, you make your decisions. So he hired her, and 30 days later, he fired her. And of course, I said, ha, ha, ha. No, I didn't say that. I don't want to do that. That's the way to turn off good clients. The ability to fit a job description is vitally important, and they have to be taught. They don't walk in the door knowing your job description, knowing all the ins and outs, the minute little things. That all has to be taught. And so you have to have a new employee walk into the position with an open mind. I want to learn everything I can learn as fast as I can learn it so I can plug in and be productive. We call it teachability or coachability. Number 4 is follow orders. I recommend in job descriptions that you have some little kinks where you tell them what we want is this, this, and this, and you make it so it's a little bit confusing, because what I want is for that person to read that question and then ask you, what do you really mean by this? That shows that they're willing to learn something new. They want to make sure they're moving in the right direction. Some people just blab off, and basically what they're telling you is that's what they're going to do on the job also. Just shoot for the wall. Hope you hit. Well, following orders, what do you do, and this is a good question to ask in an interview, what do you do when this happens? And give a circumstance that's related to the job description and see how they answer that. Because what I want is, if they don't have a good answer, they're going to say, can you help me understand the question and how that fits? I want an open mind. An open-minded person is a person who will follow orders and will listen, not only listen to what you say, but hear why you're saying it. And the hearing is more important than the listening. Number 5 is creativity. Every position in the world requires a certain amount of creativity. Some jobs more than others, and you should have a pretty good idea in your job description of how much creativity this position requires. If it's a lot of routine work, well then the creativity level is lower. But if it's something where we're exploring and we're trying new things and mixing this with this and so on, you want to get somebody who is highly creative, sees a problem, and has the ability to find answers. I like questions in interviewing that cause people to have to find a solution to the question, as opposed to just answer it with yes or no. Number 6, leadership ability. If you're hiring somebody for a leadership position, needless to say, this is vitally important. But leadership is a developed ability, and what you're really looking for is this person open to your leading, your managing, your directives, your training, all those aspects of creating the perfect employee. Because you have to create the perfect employee, because you know what you want, you know what you need from each person on staff. What we're looking for then is this person have enough experience in leadership that they know the ups and downs of dealing with people who don't like them very well, or tried putting them down and so on. In a leadership role, one of the biggest problems is you can't hire 10 perfect people. Some of those people are going to just aggravate you every day, and they're going to try to aggravate you every day. Now, you don't want to hire those kind of people, but I hate to say it, most companies do, and they have to put up with, well, putting up with is a little difficult. And to develop a person into a leadership role, especially if you're hiring a manager, a vice president level, of course, any of the leadership roles, boy, we have to have leadership. We have to have people who know how to lead, know how to relate to people so that they generate enthusiasm to achieve. Number 7, tenacity. The ability to keep on keeping on. Run out of gas at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, got to keep going. Things don't go quite right, got to stay with the program and make it work. Do it again. Do it again. Keep doing it until you get it right. That takes tenacity. It takes that desire to see something happen and make it happen and stay with it until it happens. That's what any job description really is. Number 8, emotional stability. We want people who don't lose their temper. We want people who have a stable day-to-day lifestyle. We don't want highs and lows, because with the highs, you break things, and with lows, they don't even show up for work. So we want to get in that middle ground where people are stable, and you have questions you can ask to determine how stable this person is by creating a scenario. Here's the problem. How are you going to deal with that kind of problem? And looking for emotional stability, you're looking for people who are there every day, on the job, consistently. And then number 9, and this normally is number 1 on everybody else's list, and that is experience. The job description, position. You need to have a job description that is a position description, really. And does this person fit that job description? Vitally important that they have the wherewithal. And of course, in most cases, with the interview process and with applications, a person has to have a certain amount of experience just to interview for the job. I did an interview recently for a PhD position. Everybody who walked in the door had a PhD. So how do you pick the best FUD? That's how you sound out PhD. It was a challenge because they were pretty close, many of them, but some of them were quite a bit weaker than the stronger ones. And then you have to be patient enough to work through who has the best experience that fits our job description, our task, because it's unique. And then number 10 is education. Once again, this normally is clear at the top of most job descriptions and most job requirements and so on. But the fact is, if there's a requirement for education, everybody has to meet the basic requirement. Now it's a matter of what kind of education did this person get? Can they hit the road running, or are they still going back to the books? Job description. A job description basically entails the total package of who this person is, what they bring to the mix, and how they are going to fit with the organization that is now there. Because they have to fit. They have to fit with the management, they have to fit with peers, in some cases with subordinates. All of that has to be considered. So education and experience are pretty much a requirement just to interview for the job. So that's why we have it 9 and 10. Well, I hope this will help you. It's a kind of a track to run on, and you can take off on bunny trails all through the whole thing, because ask one of these questions on one of these subjects, and you can go with 2 and 3 and 4 questions just on your ability to get out of bed in the morning. I mean, if they don't get out of bed, they're not going to show up for work. So what we want to do then is we want to make sure we're getting as much information from the person in the interview process as possible. But the second side of that is for you, the interviewer, to keep your mind open. It's very difficult. In earlier lessons, we talked about how we make decisions in 5 minutes or less. Well, in the interview process, if you're doing an hour interview, or in some cases, more than an hour, it's vitally important you keep your mind open so the last question and answer is as valid and as important as the first. If you make a decision on the first question you ask or the second, or how the person looks when they walk in the room, or how they shake hands, now you take all that stuff into consideration. But with each of these 10, what I require my people to do and instruction, and that is when you finish number 1, then you say in your mind to yourself, I wonder how they're going to answer this next question. It's called creating curiosity. It's called opening your mind so that you're not allowing previous answers to influence your response on this answer. I've heard interviewers say things like, well, you're pretty close, we'll be okay on that, and they move on. No, pretty close isn't good. You have questions to see if that person is competent in those areas. Do you want 5 out of the 10 to be pretty close or right on? And so continue asking yourself the question, have I opened my mind to this question? This question is, how do you react when somebody says to you, you just can't do it? I like that question. Because do they fade away or do they meet the challenge? And so that's the question I'm going to ask, and I'm looking at, are they going to fade away? Are they going to jump on it like a dog on a bone? And that's what you do on every question, because if you don't do that, your mind will close and you'll not hear answers for the last 5 questions you ask. I've seen it happen so many times. And we were working with a company in the Washington, D.C. area, and they were hiring a head of the developmental side of the business they're in. And the first question the president of the company asked was, do you see yourself fitting into this job description? And I was so shocked, not one of the applicants said, no, I don't see myself fitting at all. Because there's only 2 answers to that question, yes or no. Total worthless question. And then the vice president, that was the president of the company's first question. Then the HR person asked, do you have the ability to fit in with people? Can you relate to people? Do you have relationship skills? Yes. Good, that's good. And then it came my turn to ask my first question, and I said, if you could write a scenario of the perfect job for you, what would it be? And the president looked at the vice president, and what is that? How does that have to do with the job? It has everything to do with the job, because what I want to know is, what is this person looking for in a job? What is their hot button as far as, boy, if I could have that kind of job? I want to know that and see how that fits with the job description. So on the next interview with that same company, the president said, where do you see yourself fitting in a job description? He asked my question. I had to come up with another question. And when we got through doing all the interviews, he said to me, would you teach us how to do interviewing? Because obviously we don't know what we're doing. And that's what caused us to create the program in the first place, Effective Interviewing, Square Pegs for Square Holes. Well, you're called upon, if you're in a leadership role, you're called upon to interview. And in that interview process, you need to find out the basic foundation of the individual. Realize 80% of what that person does on a day-to-day basis is habitual. If you can get a read on the 80% of actions and reactions of that individual and match it against a good job description, then you can be pretty accurate in the hiring process, and you're not going to have the high level of turnover in personnel. Good luck with that, and hopefully we'll see you in the next lesson.